Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Kevin Costner breaks silence on controversial Yellowstone finale, dubbed worst in TV history. Kevin Costner has admitted he's trying not to think about the Yellowstone finale following intense criticism from fans. The popular drama series came to an end last week after 6 years and tried to deliver plenty of drama, with Beth Dutton, Kelly Rayleigh, even murdering her brother Jamie Dutton, Wes Bentley. However, fans have been sharing their disappointment ever since it aired, with many calling the finale the worst in television history. Kevin was not involved in the last episode, with his character John Dutton being killed off earlier in the season in a faked suicide. However, the 69-year-old actor has shared his thoughts on the episode. "I'm not thinking about the Yellowstone finale. I don't think I've given it any thoughts. We'll just let it go," he told the Daily Mail. Yellowstone's season finale saw Case Dutton, Luke Grimes, follow through with his plan of saving the ranch by giving it away as he sold the property to its rightful owners, the Broken Rock Indians. Elsewhere in the episode, Beth and her husband Rip Wheeler, Cole Hauser, bought a new ranch after she murdered her brother as they started a new chapter together. Fans had hoped for more tense scenes from the finale. Dumb ending #Yellowstone #Yellowstone TV. One fan fumed as another blasted. That was probably the worst final season in television history. One person even suggested the Yellowstone finale was worse than the controversial Game of Thrones ending. It is official. Game of Thrones is no longer the worst final season of any TV show ever. Yellowstone has taken that award. What a disaster of a final season. Another person posted, "I felt like it was entirely too rushed. The whole season, the guys leaving everything. The plot with Jamie and the kill for hire was way too rushed. It ended way too quickly and easily. Just all around felt like it was a lazy, last-minute put together." Kevin Costner leaned back in a leather chair of his expansive Montana ranch house, his eyes gazing out the window at the rugged peaks that had become as much a part of his identity as the character of John Dutton himself. It was a crisp winter morning, the kind that brought clarity, and with it, a sense of finality. For the first time since the controversial ending of Yellowstone, the series that had redefined modern westerns, Kevin was ready to address the firestorm of criticism surrounding its finale. "I've been in this business a long time," Costner began, his voice steady yet tinged with emotion. "You get to know the ebb and flow of audience expectations, the highs of applause, and the sting of disappointment. But this reaction was something else entirely." The finale of Yellowstone had aired weeks earlier, and the backlash had been swift and brutal. Social media erupted with hashtags like #WorstFinaleEver and #RuinedLegacy. Critics lambasted the abrupt plot twists, unresolved storylines, and what many called an unceremonious end for beloved characters. Fans, once loyal to the saga of the Dutton family, were left feeling betrayed. Costner's portrayal of patriarch John Dutton had been the cornerstone of the show's success. It was a role that had earned him accolades, awards, and a renewed relevance in Hollywood. But even he had struggled with the creative decisions made in the series' final chapter. "When Taylor Sheridan first pitched the idea of Yellowstone, I was drawn to its authenticity," Costner said, his hands clasped tightly. "It was raw, unflinching, and deeply human. But as the show grew in popularity, I think the weight of its success started to influence the storytelling. The finale, well, let's just say it wasn't the ending I envisioned for John Dutton or the legacy of the show." He paused, his gaze drifting to a photograph on the mantel, a candid shot of the cast during the early days of filming. Yellowstone had been more than just a job, it had been a family. And like any family, there were disagreements, compromises, and moments of regret. There was a lot of tension behind the scenes leading up to the finale, Costner admitted. Creative differences, scheduling conflicts, even budget constraints. "It's no secret that my relationship with the production team became strained. But at the end of the day, I trusted the process. I trusted that Taylor's vision, even if it wasn't aligned with my own, would honor the characters and the fans." Yet for many viewers that trust had been broken. The final episode had seen John Dutton's shocking demise in a blaze of betrayal, orchestrated by none other than his own daughter, Beth. The twist, meant to be a commentary on the destructive nature of power and legacy, was met with outrage. Fans decried it as out of character and unnecessarily grim. I've heard the fans' frustrations, Costner said, his voice heavy, and I share some of them. John was a flawed man, yes, but he was also a survivor. To see his story end that way, it was hard for me to reconcile. Costner's critique didn't stop there. He addressed the unfinished arcs of other key characters, like Case's spiritual journey, Monica's quiet resilience, and Rip's unwavering loyalty. These were characters we all grew to love, characters with so much more story to tell. To see their journeys cut short or left unresolved, it felt like a disservice, not just to them, but to the audience. The actors' candidness was a stark contrast to the radio silence from Paramount and Sheridan, who had largely avoided addressing the finale's reception. But Costner's decision to speak out wasn't just about setting the record straight, it was about owning his part in the narrative. "I'm not here to point fingers," he said, leaning forward. "Every project is a collaboration, and every decision, good or bad, is a shared responsibility. Could I have pushed harder for a different ending? Maybe. But hindsight is a luxury we don't have in this industry." As he spoke, there was an undercurrent of hope in his words. Costner acknowledged the transformative impact Yellowstone had on television and on his career. This show brought the American West back into the spotlight. It gave audiences a glimpse into a world that's often overlooked, a world of grit, beauty, and complexity. For that, I'll always be proud. But he also recognized the need for growth, both for himself and for the industry. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that storytelling is a living, breathing thing. It's not always perfect, and it doesn't always end the way we'd like. But that's what makes it powerful. It sparks conversation, debate, and sometimes even outrage. Costner's reflections weren't just about the past, they hinted at the future. When asked if he'd ever revisit the world of Yellowstone, his answer was thoughtful. "Never say never," he said with a faint smile. "There's always more to explore, more stories to tell. But it would have to be the right story, one that does justice to these characters and the world they inhabit." As the interview wrapped up, Costner's parting words were a message to the fans who had invested so deeply in Yellowstone. To everyone who loved the show, who felt disappointed, who felt betrayed, "I hear you," he said. "Your passion is what made Yellowstone what it was. And while the ending may not have been what we hoped for, I believe the journey was worth it. Because at its core, Yellowstone was always about one thing, the fight to hold on to what matters most. And that fight, in all its messiness and imperfection, is something we can all relate to." With that, Kevin Costner stood, his silhouette framed by the Montana mountains that had been both his sanctuary and his stage. The controversy over the finale might never fade entirely, but in his quiet resolve there was a sense of closure, and perhaps a new beginning.